Imagine you're a founder of a B2B tech firm having dinner with a couple of friends who also hold similar positions in their companies. At dinner, you are also meeting with a consultant who has been recommended to you as having a stellar record in solving problems in the B2B space. Now, the problem which you and your friends have is that of being able to scale your businesses predictably. It seems your efforts tend to be more miss than hits. And while the conversation amongst you and your friends starts to drift towards solving sales issues, the consultant suggests caution and asks if you've looked internally for problems within the rest of your organization. Does that sound counterintuitive? If so, chances are that the advice that our guest will share today will be just that. Hello and welcome to the Predictable B2B Success podcast brought to you by Sproutwith.com. I'm Vinay Koshy and our guest today is Oscar Torres. Now, Oscar, you are the founder and director of the pioneering program on B2B in senior management called B2B Management of ESADE Executive Education. I think you've had something like 22 or more editions since 2016 with more than 500 participants who are mostly owners and CEOs of businesses. You're also the founder and director of Business Transformation for CEOs, a program that competes in the Financial Times Executive Education Ranking, contributed to achieving number 4 position. Actually, it's just been updated to number 3 this week as the best business school in the world in executive education. You're also a visiting professor at SEAMS, the number 1 MBA in Asia, according to the Financial Times 2020 ranking. Now, Oscar, the program that you run seems to be inherently broad and complex. So I'm curious, is there a particular incident or event that occurred that got you down this path or this trajectory of trying to help CEOs and owners of businesses with their B2B problems?
Absolutely. I think that the reason why somebody decides to apply to the program we run at ESADE B2B Management, it's probably the same reason why I founded this program 6-7 years ago. And it's because even between 50 and 70% of companies in the world, they are doing B2B. 90% of the case studies discussed in business schools, they are B2C. So there is something broken. And it's something dangerous because I did engineering and after I went to a business school to learn about business, and I didn't learn about business. I learned about B2C.
Hmm.
And at the end of the day, between 50 and 70% of the people sitting down in a business school, potentially they are going to be very, very focused on a B2B company. And that's one of the reasons why I think this is the first click, the first thing, red flag, when people listens about this program that makes people really thinking, okay, let's take a look on what Oscar and Oscar's team of faculty is sharing in this Focus 5-day executive education program.
That's a very interesting point. I don't think a lot of people pick up on it, but you've obviously cottoned on to it. And I'd love to dive into that in a little bit. But I'm also curious, given your journey to date, what would you say is your personal area of strength?
I think I studied engineering, but my probably in English is major. My specialty was industrial organization. I'm not very artistic. I like processes. I like method. And when the first time I discovered I was involved in business, I was quite old already. I already have had these 10, 12 years of experience, mainly in the industry, some B2C companies. I worked for some B2C companies. And one of the things that I had to face was the very artistic approach to make business. And as a good engineer, this was killing my way of thinking, right? It should be a process, right? It should be a method. Data has to be useful to forecast business and to really measure and so on. So I think that if I have to select something that I've been doing for the last 20 years, which could be relevant in this conversation, it's to really analyze, simplify, look for models that can help to do a better, more predictable and scalable business. That's a little bit the sweet spot.
And what would you say in that area of strength is something that businesses don't know but should?
Specifically in B2B business, I think that sometimes we are not aware that the business is much more a mirror. It's a reflect of the way we are organized than the situation of the market, because the market
Hmm.
is the same for everybody. But the thing that you can really control and manage and leverage is the way you are organized, which people, which processes, which data you are managing to produce which business. So I think that this is something that in many cases people don't really connect the dots. The other thing that I heard so many times from attendees to my program, which are mainly C-level and CEOs and founders of B2B companies, it's funny because the program takes 5 days. It's a 5 days program. It's a very focused program because people coming to the program is quite senior. And one of the key takeaways that which looks like sometimes ridiculous, but it's a very humble reaction. It's when you ask to some people is, okay, one of the aha moments is that we are B2B. And there is a huge implication of recognizing that the company, it's different compared to a company making yogurts, beer, or iPhones. And these differences, they have two implications. How you are organized, what I call the B2B management model, and how you behave, what I call the B2B culture.
Hmm.
So I think that organization and culture, they are two very powerful and sometimes difficult but powerful tools to really compete in B2B on top of competing with your solutions, for sure.
You've talked about the fact that most people are educated on B2C models, not necessarily B2B for the most part, and the fact that B2B management, the organization and culture are key issues that govern the predictability or the success of a business. Would you also say that there's perhaps the metrics that are often assigned to various people in the organization, including C-level staff, that contributes to this way of thinking that perhaps people are more focused on actually achieving a particular OKRs or KPIs and the numbers associated with it that distracts them from all the people connections within the organization and ensuring that is working in a cohesive manner.
Yeah, definitely. In fact, we are highly educated to the common KPIs that are useful and used in B2C. And I believe, no, I don't believe, I'm absolutely sure that the KPIs that they have to do the governance of the management model in B2B, they have to be different. And there is a very simple reason. Think about how long it takes to buy an iWatch in an Apple store. It's going to be 50 minutes of relationship people to people, right? To buy one product. Before this 15 minutes, there is a lot of marketing, B2C marketing. After these 50 minutes, there is probably nothing. There is a client or a consumer enjoying a product. And if you see this situation, a lot of marketing, 15 minutes of relationship with somebody, which is not really relevant because at the end of the day, what you buy is a product. If you compare that with a B2B relationship, it's going to be super different. At the very beginning, could be a little bit of marketing, but not that many. 6 months of relationship, 6 months of relationship. The data that will do the governance between professionals during 6 months will have nothing to do between the KPIs you need to do the governance of marketing and 15 minutes of relationship. So in some way, we really have to, for sure, we have to track results in B2B, but we have to track leading KPIs. We really have to track KPIs, which are much more giving to us much more data about the efforts we are doing to achieve these results. And in not so many cases, companies, they are so clear about the fact to having these two different type of KPIs.
That's interesting. So, are you suggesting that we have KPIs associated with the kind of relationships that we should have with our potential customers or accounts?
Yeah, I'm saying that as B2B relationships, they can be absolutely longer. You have to have KPIs that help you to track if you are in the right direction. Because if you just manage quarterly closing and QBR and all these meetings looking to the past, when a quarter looks bad and you are the first day of the next quarter, there is not much to do.
Mm.
It's much more strong to monitor certain KPIs that they are an indication of effort that will bring you to good results. So the effort and the results are so close in B2C that their KPIs are almost the same. In B2B, there is such distance that you need to build the right scorecard to really manage the business properly.
Could you give us an example of what that scorecard could look like and what sort of KPIs would be on?
Yeah, a lagging KPI will be client's money in your bank account. A leading KPI could be a new connect on LinkedIn at the right account with the right person. And perhaps with this new connect, it will take you 9 months to really close a deal, but you need to measure this early information to really connect the dots and to be sure that you are in the right direction, right?
It's not quite a paradigm shift because I guess for many CEOs who have pressure from their investors and including maybe even founders as well, the pressure is on to show the ability to make money, revenue, as it were, on a quarter by quarter basis. Looking at relationships, most investors would say that's irrelevant to us. And besides the point, we need to know that you actually have the ability to bring in money every quarter. What would you say to businesses or business people who struggle with this pressure?
I would say that they need to start earlier. This is like telling to Larry Bird that the guy was very good doing the triple in a match. Oh, you are so good, man, Larry Bird. You're so good. And Larry for sure was thinking, yeah, I'm good because you see the lagging KPI. But what you didn't see is that I was doing my homework for the last 9 months every single night. And half of this homework was done without light. So it's we cannot measure just results because results when in B2B, when results, they look ugly, your team has been working badly for months.
Right.
So you really need to measure activity level. You need to measure effort. You need to measure something in between, which you can connect efforts with result, right?
Mm-hmm. Now, you've talked about the relationships that companies should have with their clients. What about relationships within the organization itself? Because this way of thinking is probably not something that a lot of us are educated with, and they probably come to ESADE to attend your program to begin to have that beginnings of a mind shift and a heart shift. I'm
Very,
curious.
very important. We have a faculty in the Spanish. We have the Spanish and the English edition, and we have a faculty in the Spanish edition, which is Rafa Richard, which is an executive at Danone company. And the reason why we invite Rafa, it's because he's an executive in a B2C company. So he could be one of our clients. And Rafa makes a very good explanation as a professional buyer, potential client of some B2B companies. And Rafa always makes a comment, which it makes me think a lot. which is I would never buy from a company where I can see that the seller has no power in his own organization. So a B2B buyer, it's not buying a product or even a solution. It's buying what I call the B2B mix. It's really not buying just the solution. It's buying the solution, the company that backups the solution, and the people that they face. So when we say the company, the processes of the company, the collaboration between the different departments, how you position your company as part of what you're selling. And that's very funny because sometimes I have to do a B2B audit and I ask to the people, okay, so show me one of your proposals. How you make a proposal? You cannot imagine how many people their proposal is just their solution.
Mm-hmm.
And I truly believe that a proposal has to be inspired on my B2B mix, which is the solution, the company, and the people, which means that the proposal should include, this is the solution we propose for this problem. But let us tell you a little bit about our company and why you have to be super quiet. And let me tell you about our team, which is going to support the solution, the relationship, and so on. So what you just mentioned, it's for sure critical in B2B and is not critical at all in B2C. When you buy an iWatch, you buy an iWatch, period. You don't care if the relationship between supply chain manager and marketing manager in Apple is great or not. You don't care. You just want your product. But when you buy a solution from a B2B company, if this supplier or this company it's starting to collaborate with you, if their processes are not perfectly, they don't work perfectly, you will be concerned because you will have a risk perception to take the decision to work with these guys. And in B2B, as you don't pay with your own money, you're paying with company's money, then you do a stronger due diligence because you have this perception of risk. The risk is not going to be related to, do I buy this solution or not? The risk is going to be triple. Is it risk on in this perception of solution, if it works or not? But it's going to be risk related as well to the company and risk related to the people that you face. So definitely it's very important that the company which is selling to another company, their processes, they are an asset for the client. And we have to highlight this as an asset.
Very interesting, because I don't think anyone's really talked about having their processes being positioned as an asset. Could you give us an example of how you would be able to position your process as asset? And just listening to you, I'm assuming that you're positioning this as very much in line with the overall value proposition. Would that be correct?
Sure. Yeah. Let's imagine that you're selling raw material, which can be used in the pharma industry, right? Your client is super concerned about FDA. And then on top of the drug you're selling to this pharmaceutical company, you can demonstrate that you have a process that really helps to track traceability. So the traceability it's an asset of your internal processes that has nothing to do with your solution, but it has a lot to do with your capability as an organization to find out if anytime you have a problem with your product, you have the capability to tell to your client, okay, I perfectly know from which batch to which batch in my production, I had this problem. So you see, nothing to do with the product, a lot to do with the organization. And when you start thinking like that, you compete in a better way. Because in B2B, competing just with the product like they do in B2C, it's a pity. You have to compete with your management model, which means with the way you are organized. And one topic we didn't mention, which is like my last line of research and work. It's you have to compete on top of the way you are organized, the B2B management model. You have to compete with your culture. You really have to compete with the way your people behave when they face clients, because it's super hard to copy that. They can copy your product, but it's going to be hard that they copy your culture.
I'm glad you mentioned culture, because I was going to say, again, listening to you, I get the impression that, at least in the B2B space, there needs to be a propensity towards having people who are empathetic and incredibly curious about their clients. In fact, it should be almost part of the culture of the organization. Is that a statement that you would say is fair?
Absolutely. I would say it's more than curious. I think that they have to be humble and curious, because this humble approach makes you even more authentic when you are curious. And they have to be curious, but they have to be very focused, because you can have curiosity for things that I cannot fix. I prefer to be curious for things we can fix, because from a cultural point of view, the fact that everybody in your company understands that selling is just helping in B2B, this is never going to be the result, because you send them to a training, to a sales training, or even to a training. Everybody in your B2B company will think that selling is helping when they see internally that you believe that. It's going to be a top-down mindset, which will translate in a certain behavior, which is going to be like making questions because you're curious. So I think everything is linked, but for sure, the B2B culture, or if you are aware that you need to push for a specific type of culture, this is going to be a plus for your business, because your clients will buy that. They definitely will buy that. They will value, if they value that, they will buy that, will be part of what they buy, right?
So, would it also be fair to say that purpose-driven organizations or purpose-driven brands stand a better chance in having more of a competitive advantage?
I would say more than purpose, a company with the purpose of helping will better compete. And a company with the purpose of just making profit, without any other purpose, it's going to be harder. Think about, from a talent point of view, one of the things we have seen is that B2B becomes very attractive for new generations, because new generations, they have this sense of purpose, and they have this sense of, I want to help, I want to contribute, I want to do it better, I want to waste less, I want to be more sustainable. And there is like, it makes that if you have this DNA implemented in your B2B company, it's going to be much more powerful to attract talent than the DNA of, we do the best product of the world, which is quite self-oriented.
Yeah. Speaking of talent, we've touched upon culture. Are you recommending to companies that they codify their culture? Because quite often they may have a vision statement, the mission statement, maybe a set of values printed on the wall somewhere. But more often than not, when you ask people within the organization, what is the business about? What is the purpose of the business? You tend to get blank stares or different interpretations of what they think it should be. In order to build consensus and cohesiveness, is codifying culture, be it in a slide deck that's shared continuously and everywhere, or in a document somewhere, the best way to approach this, or is there another recommendation?
I would never put my culture in a slide deck. I think that the best way to do it, I think the one that has this quote, it should be the CEO.
Right.
But it should be written in a notebook in the office of the CEO, and the CEO needs to read it every morning. And then the moment that the CEO is consistently executing a certain type of behavior, the behavior of the CEO becomes the mindset of the C-level, which will become translating to the behavior and will become the mindset of the management team. So to really implement something like that, it's not about talking about that. It's behaving like that. And it's a top-down process. So if you want to codify that, which I think I understand what you mean. So if you want to formalize that, the best way to formalize is don't formalize. Just do it. And do it top down. And it's funny because sometimes when we start in the program, when we start discussing about B2B culture, some people said, so it's in my hands. I'm the CEO, is in my hands, right? And the answer is yes. Absolutely. And this is what I call the butterfly effect. If one CEO of a large, medium, or a small company takes a decision, conscious decision, has to be conscious, to start making a different question to his teams and maintaining this question for 4, 5, 6 months, it will be the best way to codify a new behavior that for this company CEO will, when this person wants to implement that. So it's not about PowerPoint. It's not about internal communication. It's much more about consciousness and really taking the decision that, okay, from now on, I'm going to stop asking about, did you close a deal? And I'm going to start asking about, what is the problem of the client? Think about, what is the difference? If you as a CEO, you are in the corridor and you see a seller, which deal you close this week? What kind of people you will produce? You are going to produce self-oriented people that their mindset will become very transactional. If you are the CEO and every time that you see a seller in the corridor and your question is, what was the problem of the client you meet this week? You're going to produce something different. And the point here is that the challenge here is change management. Every time that the CEO takes a decision to kick off a new question, looking for codifying a new behavior, the challenge is time. If you do it for a week, it's nothing. If you do it during 3 weeks, it's a fashion. If you do it for 3 months, it's okay. But the problem is if you don't really resist 6 months, it's going to go. It will gone, right? So here the ultimate goal is when you start observing people that they made them the concept you were asking for, they come back to you with the same behavior, which means that they got the mindset. And it's sometimes I remember a student in China that said, Professor Torres, simple but difficult. It's not complex. It's not rocket science to take a decision that I'm going to do a new question as a CEO, but it's difficult because it requires consciousness. It requires a decision of, okay, we need to turn a little bit the behavior of our people in a different direction, some degrees. And it really requires resilience and being systematic, asking the same things, looking to implement a certain type of mindset that will translate into the behavior that our client will value.
Certainly. And that is a very interesting approach. I'm curious from a talent perspective, how do we ensure that the people that we hire, especially at the executive level and down, have this mindset and are able to ensure that future hires also are able to operate in a similar fashion?
I think that it's very important that we hire people that really enjoy the discovery of new situations all time long. I think that some people, they feel very comfortable doing copy paste, right? I think other people, we feel comfortable with the opposite. Okay, in the morning, I was in this company that they do furniture. In midday, I will visit this company doing biotech. And in the late afternoon, I will be visiting this company. To enjoy this kind of intellectual diversity, you have to enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
So I think that this is like a must, because if you prefer all time long to be concentrated on your thing, your product, and so on, you should go to B2C, because B2C is going to be mainly about your own product, right? You make yogurts, you will be 10 years talking about yogurts. If you are in B2B, as your product is less relevant than the problem of your client, you need to really enjoy the discovery phase of the problem of the client. So this has huge implications when you are building the team, because you need analytical people. You need people that enjoys connecting the dots. You need the people that really enjoys framing the problem and analyzing the solution, mitigating the risk of the decision maker by offering real proof of value. And I truly believe that these are certain type of people. And it's very important when you are doing the sourcing of your talents that you have a very clear picture of what are the key skills and how you can recognize the skills in your team members.
I would completely agree with what you're saying. However, I think in most organizations, those sorts of skills aren't necessarily recognized or rewarded, unfortunately. I don't know if you have a different perspective on that, but yeah, that's been at least my perception or experience.
Yeah, but if you are in B2B, let's position like that. If you are in B2B and you are very self-oriented, you will have a problem with your P&L, because, as I almost mentioned before, when your client takes a decision to work with you, as they pay with their company's money, they will want to have the feeling that there is no risk working with you. And to mitigate this risk, you need to deliver trust. And if you take a look to this trusted advisor equation from these authors, you increase trust when you are self-oriented. And when you are very product-oriented, your own product-oriented, you are very self-oriented. So I think it's very important to really reflect that, for sure, a B2B company needs a product, because to deliver a solution for a certain problem, it's very important. But for sure, it's going to be more important than the product, our level of understanding of the context of the client.
Just a thought. Would you say that companies that invest in case studies and having a lot of them, in fact, perhaps a repository that's categorized and indexed as well of case studies with clients, shows a tendency to have those qualities and characteristics that you've been talking
You mean the companies that they invest on what?
in case studies,
The production of case studies.
Yeah, with their clients.
Somehow, yeah, somehow, because it depends on how is built the case study, right? But somehow what they are trying to do is, instead talking with myself, I'm going to talk about what my clients have achieved with my solutions, right? So it's for sure a much more humble and pragmatic approach, where they already discount their products and solutions, and they are focused on showing what we can really do by presenting what their clients are able to do with their solutions, which is very smart, right?
Brilliant. I'm also curious, are there perhaps a couple of aspects to this whole idea of creating predictability and scalability within B2B companies that you find doesn't get talked about very much? If so, what would they be?
I think there is one thing which is super soft, which is you cannot be predictable without your people and the behavior of your people. How do you translate something so soft like the behavior of your people with predictability? And this brings us to the fact that we need a specific culture, as you said before, codify the culture. I think this is one of the things that when I have next Monday, we start the 24th edition of the B2B management. And I'm going to have 50, 60 founders, CEOs, and C-level in front of me. And I see that when I make a comment like that, they are start thinking, oh my God, this means that I really need to monitor the way my people behave. And the answer is yes. Because if you have a 500 employees company, anyone facing a client can make your company look great or look a disaster. Another thing that I think sometimes we confuse is that some people can talk about the sales process, but I think that we have to consider the B2B relationship as a process. The sales process is like that. It's to get one deal, but the B2B relationship is like this. There is a lifetime value. The beauty of the B2B relationships is that the B2B clients are super loyal, normally, unless you do something very bad. You make a huge mistake. But for the same reason, which is hard to get a new B2B client, it's hard to lose an existing B2B client. And it's because any change represents a risk. So I think that's the second topic that makes it really, people sometimes forget. The third topic would be data. We really don't measure what we have to measure. We discussed before leading and lagging data. The fourth topic for me is marketing as a very specific type of process. B2B marketing in many companies doesn't exist. They are a B2B company, but they have a B2C marketing. And it's normal because people educated in marketing, they are 99% educated on B2C. So when you look for a marketing person, you will not have a marketing person. You will have a B2C marketing person. So doing the right B2B marketing, it's going to be critical in some cases to scale and to scale with predictability. And the last topic, which is, I think we already commented that this one is that for the client doesn't care about your product. The client cares about your capability to offer value to their context. So if all the company is super proud and arrogant about the product, this is not good. The company should be super proud about our capability to bring value to the context of the client. This is why I used to say that in B2B, we sell contextual value. So these 5 elements from an organizational point of view, they should be considered at the CEO point, at the CEO level, at the C level, to really build a system that produces better, predictable, and scalable business.
With your point around B2B marketing, would you say that the developments that we're seeing with account-based marketing in some way helps address the issues that you have seen over time of most B2B marketing reflecting B2C marketing?
Yes and no. For sure, companies doing account-based marketing, it's great. But 95% of the companies, they are in a different planet, which means that they are 10 years behind. So I think that in the program, we almost don't mention that, and we know about that.
Yeah.
But it's okay, if you don't know how to walk, well, I'm going to tell you about running, right? Let's first learn how to walk, and then let's understand the role of B2B marketing in the company. Let's understand what I have to expect. Let's understand what we have to, how we can help this function to really contribute to the business. And then after, probably in a certain time, we can start considering that perhaps for key accounts, we have to do a very specific type of marketing, right?
And to wrap things up, Oscar, if you were listening to this episode, what would you say would be your top takeaway?
I would say that I would make me the question to myself that if effectively 90% of the case studies I discussed when I went to a business school, they were B2C, what was the impact for me and for my company? How this could have affected to the way I built process, people, and data to generate a better, predictable, and scalable business. And I would reflect if it could be beneficial to see in an introspective way to take a look to my own company to see if we are organized for B2C, but not that organized for what we do, which is B2B. And on top of that, reflect on if I'm the founder, the CEO, or a C-level, reflect on my own behavior, because this will be translated very fast into the mindset and behavior of my teams. And in B2B, the behavior of my teams is going to be definitely a thing that our client will value or will hate. So basically two things, right? The way we are organized, the way we behave.
Right. And Oscar, if listeners are curious, want to find out more or connect with you, where would you recommend they head to?
I think they should go either to my LinkedIn profile, Oscar Torres at ESADE, or they can go to www.esade.edu/B2B, and they will find more information about my work. As well, I have a bunch of articles at Forbes USA. So if they look for Oscar Torres at Forbes USA, I think that this will support what we have been discussing today.
Terrific. We'll include links to that in the show notes. Oscar, this has been terrific. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you, Vinay.